Hey, so in this video, I want to ask the question, is AI a threat to creativity? I see a lot of videos about this. I see a lot of people who are rushing to try and make money from this, a bit like the way people try to rush to make money from NFTs and all of that kind of stuff. It's all get rich quick kind of things, which generally are very short-lived and void of any real heart or soul. It's all just materialistic. So, um, yeah, I mean, like you don't really hear about NFTs anymore, but it was all the rage a year ago. Now it's AI and what AI can do and how AI is going to replace us all and all of that sort of stuff. So, when it comes to AI art as an artist, I actually find that the emergence of AI art is kind of inspiring. It could be used as a creative tool or to assist creativity rather than replace creativity. I think with the likes of, what was it, Midjourney that I tested out, and I give it a couple of examples of put in Samurai Santa Claus painted in ink, watercolor ink, in the style of manga, and it popped out 4 images, and it was what I asked for, and it was actually pretty impressive. I asked it to repeat the same thing, and it did a couple of variations. I then went on to Google and searched for basically images of Santa Claus in manga style or images of like Samurai Santa Claus, and nothing came up even remotely close to what it gave me as an output, which instead of making me feel disheartened or disillusioned about creating original art, it actually made me inspired to get better and to practice more. And it made me sort of think that actually what's going to end up happening is that someone's going to, if it hasn't already happened already, someone's going to create a tool that identifies AI created art and traces it back to the original owner. So whoever Midjourney stole those elements and combined them from, it'll be a bit like the YouTube content ID thing for music, but for art. Meaning that no one's going to be able to profit off of the AI generated art, and people who are actually creative and original will they'll actually stand out more in a sea of sort of AI generated stuff. And it's usually pretty easy to detect whether something's been generated by AI or not. It has a certain look about it, apart from the weird hands and stuff like that. Using artificial intelligence to come up with references for art could be a viable assistive way to use it. So instead of using it for the final piece, and instead of scouring the internet for tons of reference images, you would put in your prompt, get a bunch of stuff back that you can use as a guide, basically, or some kind of reference to piece together your actual original piece instead of making collages or whatever, brainstorming. So yeah, just in a more advanced form of brainstorming. When it comes to AI generated music, I think it's really pretty far off. I think there's some kind of interesting stuff happening. So as a singer and as a songwriter, if I am recording multiple vocal takes, harmonies and stuff like that, and I don't have anybody to collaborate with, I could feasibly now take my voice and turn it into a female singer of, it could be famous, it could be just someone, that I like the sound of their voice and think it complements my voice, and have them sing the harmony or the backing vocals, which I think, again, is an interesting thing. It's not necessarily a threat. It's a assistive creative tool. When it comes down to like AI creating actual songs or music, I think that the most, for the time being anyway, the most people are going to be able to hope for is a replacement for elevator music or a replacement for hold music when you're trying to cancel your broadband or phone contract or something, or music that you'll hear in like the background of maybe YouTube videos and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't really think it's a threat there either. I think there are some interesting tools that are assistive as well, like the likes of Scalar 2, which I picked up recently. I believe, I haven't tried this yet, but I believe you can feed your audio into it. So say I have a song and it's a chord progression, but I feel kind of stuck and I don't know where to go next. I kind of maybe have an idea in my head, but I'm not totally sure. I can feed the audio from the song into it and it will give me chord suggestions based on the chords that I've used. And I have to like audition them and say, okay, that makes sense. And then I can like choose those chords and then play them on the guitar or piano or whatever it happens to be. So I think that's interesting. As a music theory tool, as somebody who does everything by ear, it's actually teaching me quite a lot about music theory, which I think's beneficial, helpful. Again, it's an assistive tool rather than something that, does the work for you. As well as that, something that I've thought about for a little while was, and I wonder who will be the first company to actually pull this off, but if you had some sort of tuning software, vocal tuning, that takes a sample of the singer's voice and then uses that as the basis for the correction, so it never sounds unnatural, it always sounds like you or whoever the singer is. That to me seems like the logical next step for some AI assisted kind of Melodyne or auto-tune, or because auto-tune, I don't like the sound of it personally. Even as a creative effect, it just is, everything starting to sound very homogenized and generic, and in 10 or 15 years time, people will look back at this era of pop music and no one is going to be able to identify one standout singer from another because they all just sound like auto-tune. So I think the next step will be for people's actual, you'll be asked to give a sample of your voice, say a bunch of phrases, sing a bunch of phrases, and the AI will analyze how you drift between notes. And then whenever you're correcting your pitch, it'll do it in a way that's natural to your voice. That to me seems like a logical next step for AI assisted vocal tuning. Again, not necessarily auto tuning, but if it could do it, auto tuning, sure, why not? Someone actually sent me a link to, I think it's part of their university degree, and they asked me to take part in like a mix comparison, and one of the mixes was done by ear and the other one was done by artificial intelligence, and they didn't intervene with the artificial intelligence at all. So, and to be honest, both mixes weren't, I don't know, I'd say it wasn't night and day, but there was definite balance issues in one of them, which I'm assuming was the one that was balanced by the AI. I could be totally wrong about that. I think that the one that I assumed was done by the human it was much more balanced overall and had a sort of tighter low end and just a bit more upfront and stuff, whereas the other one sounded kind of strange in terms of the balance issues. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I just insulted the guy that did the mix, and so I'm sorry about that. In terms of like AI melody generation and stuff like that, I just think, why would you even do it? It's like maybe as a toy or just for fun, but in terms of like creativity, the real joy of it is figuring this stuff out yourself and exploring ideas and potential and practicing instruments, practicing singing, putting stuff together in a way that's unique to you. I think that is the real, whether you're doing it for money or whether you're doing it for fun, that's where the fun for me is, and that's where the joy for me is. And then mixing and being creative. I mean, you could give a mix to 100 different, audio engineers, and you're going to get 100 different mixes. Some of them will sound dramatically different than others. And then you could give the same mix to artificial intelligence, and it might do the basic broad strokes, but it's not going to do anything particularly interesting. It'll do, some corrective EQ and a bit of compression and, DS it or whatever. But that's about the height of it. The same with the likes of Scalar 2 and different AI assisted. I say AI assisted, I don't really think that Scalar 2 is AI assisted. It's more just a music theory tool from my perspective. But I guess you got the likes of Sonable with their smart collection, and Isotope with their plugins and suites of plugins that sort of use machine learning. To be honest, the mastering AI on the Ozone stuff, I'm not super fussed on it. I think you're better doing that sort of stuff by ear and setting that stuff up by ear. It might be able to get you in the ballpark if you scan the right part of your song, but some of the stuff that it can do can be pretty drastic and more destructive than helpful. And you're better to have a decent monitoring environment. And if you can't do that, then it's better to have something like Slave VSX or something, so you can actually hear what you're doing. But yeah, that was just some thoughts on artificial intelligence and whether or not I think artificial intelligence is actually a threat to creativity. I don't think that it is, personally. It's not going to stop me from creating. It doesn't intimidate me in any way. I think possibly it'll replace kind of low-level jobs. I don't know, does anybody admit to ever being that I'm the person that creates elevator music, or I'm the person who creates the music that you listen to when you're on hold? I've never heard of like a person that does that that's like famous or renowned. It's kind of like generic music anyway. Inoffensive, but not exactly special, and sometimes annoying. But yeah, that's just some thoughts on AI, and my advice to people is just to keep being creative and having fun being creative, and not to get too caught up or worked up about artificial intelligence. It may be that it's more assistive and helpful tool to us than a threat. But yeah, interesting times. I think there's some interesting tools, and I do think that the sort of auto-tune or Melodyne alternative, whoever comes out with it first is gonna be interesting. I think they'll all start to move that way, where they sample the singer's voice and then they use that as the basis for the tuning, so that you get a very natural tuned result. Because even mild tuning on Melodyne and all those kind of things tends to have audio artifacts and seem a bit off. But yeah, that's something I would like to see. That would be cool. Also, it would be great if I could just sing perfectly all the time, but the reality is that I can't. So, all right, cheers. Take it easy.